All right, this training module is going to be about consistency and predictability. So as you see on the slide, the foundation of Riverstones, the bedrock of Riverstones is relationship. We're a relational program. As you know, we believe that transformation takes place in the context of relationships. So it is the core bedrock of everything that we do. Other programs, not so much. I have heard one of the employees told me they worked for a group home that had like 5 different facilities, and they would move the staff, rotate them to the different facilities because they didn't want them to get close to any of the kids. They just wanted them to be these objective child care workers that were implementing a program, and they didn't want them to have a relationship. I think that's very, very bogus because of our philosophical foundation that all change takes place in the context of a relationship, and that the relationships that the staff members have, the child care workers, are the most powerful clinical feature of the program. The quality of that relationship, the people they spend the most time with, are the most powerful agents of change. It isn't the psychologist, it isn't me, even though therapy is important. 1 hour a week, if that, is not going to be nearly as powerful. Still powerful, and important things can happen in that hour. But what about the other 23 hours of that day? There's a book actually called The Other 23 Hours, and it really talks about milieu therapy and what happens in the milieu, and what if staff members, if it has a good clinical model, and if staff members are being faithful to that model. So relationship is the bedrock of what we do here, and the most powerful thing that we do is the relationships that you will have with the kids. And don't rely on the psychologist and me to make that change. It's you. So know that you are the most powerful agent of change. So relationship is the bedrock. The 2 pillars on which Riverstones is built. A very simple model, bedrock and 2 pillars. The 2 pillars are consistency and predictability. So, and that's everything at Riverstones is built on the bedrock, relationship, consistency, and predictability. What do I mean by consistency and predictability? Well, kids are, the kids we deal with, most of them have been abused, and they come from very abusive and chaotic environments. Abuse, by definition, is chaotic. And so they haven't had consistency. The majority of kids grew up with addicts as parents, and addicts are not consistent. It's very chaotic, and it all depends, everything revolves around their addiction. So they didn't get woken up the same time every day. They didn't have meals prepared for them. Their schedules were all over the place. And this was a very unhealthy, dysfunctional environment for the kids. And so because they were in such a radically unpredictable environment, we have to oppose that and balance it out in the healing process by creating a very consistent and predictable environment for them, where they can feel safe and they know what's going to happen day in and day out, no matter who's working. And that creates the safe container that treatment to contain the treatment. And if there are leaks in that, and inconsistencies and unpredictabilities, then that container leaks, and treatment doesn't happen nearly as well. So it's sort of like, and this is a bit of a crude analogy, but my brother used to be a dog trainer, and he would work with dogs that were extremely violent and aggressive, and dogs that they were going to put to sleep because they were just too aggressive. So my brother would get them. He's a little crazy. And he would get them, and he would put them in a cage, and he would put on the padded arm thing. And these are big, aggressive, strong dogs. And what he would do is he would basically alpha the dog, he called it, and he would tackle the dog and get it on its back and bite its neck until it screamed. And at that point, then it's a very radical move, and most of the time he didn't get bit. And then from that point on, the dog saw him as the alpha, and he was no longer in danger of being bit at that point. move on to the most important part. That's not the point of the story. The point is then he would put a choke chain on the dog, and then he would have his assistant come near, and as soon as that assistant came near, the dog would start to snarl, and any little sign that he was going to be aggressive, my brother would jerk the chain, and he called Rocket's World, and any little movement towards aggression he would react to. And so he had to do these really radical responses to being completely chaotic and aggressive, very radical responses to balance that out. And so I'm not calling these kids dogs, or we're not training animals here, but it's very important that we counteract their abusive environment with extreme consistency and predictability. Very, very important. And to not drift from that. And you can refer to the drift training and the drift policy in the manual that defines what drift is and getting away from consistency and predictability. So that consistency is very important. What do I mean by that? So let's take, for example, bedtime. If you were not consistent in following the bedtime, and you did it for a good reason, you drifted. You said, you know what, you can stay up late and watch this. That's completely unacceptable. Being consistent with bedtime is important because if someone that worked before you let them stay up late, and then you made them go to bed on time, you're the bad guy. And so you need to be consistent with that. And also you need to be predictable with it. So let's say that you're going to get a movie on Netflix, and you notice that it's 8 o'clock and the movie is 2.5 hours long, and their bedtime is at 10 o'clock, let's say. Well, you need to predict that they're not going to be able to finish watching that movie. What would happen if you didn't tell them that? You didn't predict that you were going to turn it off 30 minutes before the end of the movie, the best part of the movie, and you turn it off. If you didn't predict that, you're going to have a revolt on your hands. But if you predicted it, then you would say something like, hey guys, I noticed this hour is 30 minutes longer than bedtime. So we can either watch it now and stop the movie and watch the rest of it later, or we can watch the movie tomorrow. And they say, no, let's just watch it now and we'll just stop it. And you say, you're sure? Because it's, you predict it here. It's going to be hard for you to turn off the movie right at the climax of the movie. And they say, no, it's okay. All right. So you turn on the movie, and then let's just say that at bedtime you turn the movie off and didn't say anything else other than that. You already warned them once, but you didn't say anything else. They're still going to be upset. So again, you want to predict it. You want to say, guys, 15 minutes left. And they're like, oh, come on. You're like, no, you agreed to this. 15 minutes left, and we're going to turn it off. Like, all right. And then you say, guys, 5 minutes left, and we're turning it off. And they're like, oh, okay. And then finally, when you turn it off, it's really not that big of a deal because you predicted it. And so they need to have that predictable environment where you give them notice on these things. That's very helpful. Also, with ADHD kids, they really need, they have difficulty with transitions. So you need to predict what's going to be happening during a transition. So you're coming home in the van from school. It's very important for you to say something like, hey guys, today we are gonna get a snack, and then Dr. Wickham is coming, or the psychiatrist is coming to see you. So this is what we're gonna be doing today. Again, that very predictable environment that's very consistent. So these are very important skills in working with kids that you need to have in your toolbox. So relationship, consistency, and predictability.